Welcome to the Dental Team Podcast. I'm your host, Kiera Dent, and I have this crazy idea that maybe I could combine a doctor and a team member's perspective because let's face it, dentistry can be a challenging profession with those two perspectives. I've been a dental assistant, treatment coordinator, scheduler, biller, office manager, regional manager, practice owner, and I have a team of traveling consultants where we have traveled to over 165 different offices coaching teams. Yep, we don't just understand you, we are you. Our mission is to positively impact the world of dental, and I believe that this podcast is the greatest way I can help elevate teams, grow VIP experiences, reduce stress, and create A-teams. Welcome to the Dental Team Podcast. Hello, Dental Team listeners. This is Kiera, and I'm excited today. I always geek out with people that can help me overcome burnout and stress because I don't know about any of you, but that tends to be like my daily mantra. And so with that, I have Steve Adams, CEO and founder of Tiger Medical Institute. He's here. I'm excited. I'm going to geek out and ask all my questions. That's selfishly why I brought you on the podcast today, Steve. So how are you? Welcome.
I'm doing well, and you can ask me any question you want. I'll be happy to share what I know.
Excellent. Well, okay. You got my interest. You piqued my interest when you guys submitted in. I get inquiries constantly. I mean,
I'm sure.
Truly the podcast, I probably get 5 to 10 within every single day. So we're getting inundated with it. I usually say no to most. But when you said you're going to have science-backed strategies for overcoming burnout and stress, I'm like, sign me up. I'm asking selfishly for myself. So that was what piqued my interest. But Steve, you got to tell us a little bit of background. How did you get here? Yep. What's your credibility? I mean, I'm all for it. Even if you're not credible, sell me some snake oil. And if it will take away burnout and stress, I'm here for it. But kind of just walk me through your journey and how you got here.
So I'm anti snake oil.
Okay, great.
I'm science guy. So my story is I started out in life as a corporate banker, got my MBA, was really successful at that, walked away from a very promising career in banking. I was actually a regional bank president at 35 years old, but I literally hated it. I couldn't imagine doing that for 25 more years. And so I left and jumped into a pet franchise called Pet Supplies Plus. I don't know where you're located. I don't know. No, I don't think there are any stores there. But
it's a weird place. It's okay, Steve. My family's from
California. It's isolated a little bit.
Utah. It's okay. I travel a lot.
Right. Well, so I jumped into that back in 1996 and over 21 years became the largest franchisee in America. And we had almost 50 stores. And but in the process of that, I was taking care of everybody else except me. And so I hit severe burnout and I had a lot of health issues. I wasn't sleeping. I had acid reflux. I was exhausted literally every day. And I felt like I was in quicksand. I was 53. And so I ended up exiting the company. I sold it to my partners. And I went on a journey to find someone who could help me because the traditional healthcare system is not built for someone who has complex things like I had, but I wasn't diagnosable with any, quote, disease. Right. And it's not an indictment. I mean, these folks do a great job if you are sick. It's just, it wasn't built for that kind of 40 plus person So anyway, I went on this journey to look for a solution and I found a physician who did what's called functional medicine. And there's a lot of people who do that across America, not a lot relative to mainstream, but this person was at another level. And I've since added 2 more to our network of doctors. And the whole premise behind it is looking for those underlying mechanisms that really drive why you feel the way you do. And my physician was saying there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. You're on the average of all the labs. When I worked with Dr. McNamee, he said, I can identify over 24 things that are wrong with you, and we're going to go to work on them. And so 5 years later, we've resolved 95% of those, and everything that I just described for you has been resolved, and without prescription medication, lifestyle change, supplementation. And so I've been pretty excited about the impact of that. So that's how I arrived here. Wow. So our doctors, though, I have a Mayo-trained doctor in Florida. I have another Johns Hopkins, very credible place. He was an interventional cardiologist there, and he learned functional medicine. So he's on the team. And then I have a naturopathic MD in Seattle, Washington. So we have that network of doctors. And so everything we do is driven off hard evidence and data. Our protocols are proven over the last 4 years, and we integrate health coaching and peak performance science in with it as well.
Amazing. Well, I'm super intrigued because I think a lot of our listeners, and selfishly, this is my podcast. I podcast to meet really cool people like yourself. I feel like I don't like to listen to podcasts. That's a funny fact about me because honestly, I don't know, Steve. I want to just go to the person, ask them my questions, and move on. And I want to ask the questions I want to know.
Right.
So that's why I podcast. I think it's super fun to meet cool people, ask the questions I want to know, and then share it with the world. And so I'm really curious. Burnout and stress, I think, are heavy hitters in dental. And I know you guys work with a lot of dentists, which was a
We
great
do.
reason I wanted to bring you on a dental podcast. But kind of walk me through like, what are some of the pieces? Like, okay, we're feeling stress, we're feeling burnout. Like right
Right.
now, I don't sleep. I've got weird tingling in my body going on. We don't know what's going on. I'm
Hmm.
a bunch of people for it. But like, walk me through what are some tactical things right now that could like when I go into an office, I love to give them quick wins to where they're
Yep.
going to see instant results.
Right.
They're going to see things very quickly. What are some quick wins? I want to talk quick wins and then I want to talk longer term strategy. What are quick wins to overcome burnout and stress that you've found for clients, for yourself, things that we
Yep.
can implement today, tomorrow,
Yep.
and see results?
Well, it's burnout is just a generic term for basically a complex set of physiological imbalances. Okay. And they're unique for each individual. There are two power strategies, though. One is learning how to mitigate stress on demand, and the second one is, and they're related, how to optimize your sleep. And it's not a simple thing.
Mhm.
So uh, uh, I studied and followed Bruce McEwen. He's since deceased, but he was the preeminent endocrinologist in the world. And his quote that I always love was that stress is cumulative, meaning,
Mhm.
when you're 50 or 40 or even 30, whatever stress, if you had trauma as a child, as a teen, as a college student, and then on top of that, your career stress, it is all cumulative. And it shows up in a unique biomarker called heart rate variability, which is something we go deep on. I won't do it in the podcast. I mean, I can explain a little bit if people want to know more about it,
Yeah,
but maybe I'll do a follow-on answer after this on
sure.
HRV. Uh, but when you can learn how to deactivate stress on demand and pair that with improved sleep, what you're doing is you're setting the foundation now for medically improving your medical markers and conditions. And so that's what's made our program so unique. I've searched the whole country and I can't find medical practitioners who integrate both HRV and sleep optimization in with their medical protocols. We do through the health coaching process.
Hmm.
So what people can do right away on the podcast is go to YouTube and search for diaphragmatic breathing. It's spelled really weird. It's like DIAPHRAG, MIC, I think, breathing. Learn how to do that. And it basically is learning how to breathe with your belly instead of your chest. And what we do, though, is we breathe in through the nose for 4 seconds, and then we exhale through the mouth because you can control your breath better through the mouth for 6. So we follow that breathing pattern.
Hmm.
You don't need to do Wim Hof. You don't need to do all these fancy box breathing like the Navy SEALs. For most people, if you'll do that 4 in, 6 out, that elongated exhale, what that does is that activates the recovery side of your autonomic nervous system. There's something called your autonomic nervous system. That's what manages your pulse, your respiratory rate, your body temperature, all kinds of things. And William James is like the original American philosopher, and he says you want to learn how to make your nervous system work for you rather than against you.
Hmm.
And when you're in chronic stress, and if you don't learn how to disarm that, it will lead to anxiety, depression, and chronic disease. And that's called your nervous system is working against you, not for you. I have a little funny story. I read a book called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, but People Do.
Uh-huh.
And you don't want to read it. It's way too geek of a book. But the big idea is animals are one to one with their environment, meaning they see the lion, they run, and as soon as the lion's not there, they shake it off and they go to sleep.
Right.
Dogs do the same thing, bark when the door knock. Humans, though, we think about the podcast we're going to go on, or we think about a big, sales goal that I need to hit by the end of the month, or I'm going to have to write a check and put it in the business. That's anticipatory stress. Our brain fools us, and our body doesn't know the difference between a lion or that. And that's how we get in chronic stress. And so, if you can learn to do that kind of breathing when you feel stressed, do it. You'll disarm it on demand.
That's really interesting. I'm literally sitting over here taking notes because I think that it's just a piece that we all have.
We
I've
do.
thought about this a lot of how much different our world is. And I've been hearing like a lot of different studies and different things of like the world used to be 8 to 5. People used to go to work. We had phones at the office. We had
Yep.
computers at the office, and we would leave and we literally left. And we could go home. We would be with our families. We'd have shut off time. Yes, your
Yep.
mind might still be thinking about it. We also used to have jobs that were more like task oriented. And now we're shifting to more mind oriented. And like it never shuts off. My brain never shuts off. It's always thinking like about this podcast and about this. And like we're constantly in that. So I think it's really important to have tips because like last night, I mean, prime example, last night we have a new product launch and it's going next week. And I was like, I'm not ready for this. And like I left the office, but my husband and I talked about it for the next 2 hours. I was
Yep.
stressed. I didn't sleep last night. And so I'm curious, what do you do to improve sleep? Like even when you're stressed, because the stressors
Yeah.
I don't think will go away. I think it's learning how to like
No. Right.
have stress in your life but not respond to it
Right.
constantly. So how do you improve that sleep? Because I used to be a champ sleeper, Steve, and I'm getting annoyed because I'm like, sleep is my superpower. I always can sleep. It's very consistent. And now I'm like, what is happening?
When you
Like I
can't.
am not
Right.
sleeping like I used to. So what are some tips you guys have found around sleep and how to improve that?
Yeah. Well, sleep involves, first of all, if you do the first thing I said, 10 minutes
Hmm.
before you go to bed, for
Okay.
10 minutes, that will help you sleep.
Do you not get lightheaded? Steve, I'm just going to ask honestly, because when I do these like breathing things for 10 minutes, do you get lightheaded? This is a real question I'm asking.
Yeah. No, if you do it properly, that's why I said go get a YouTube video. Because I mean, I
Okay.
can't do this through the podcast and teach you how to do it. Um,
Okay.
but I can, but it would take too much time.
Okay.
So just, YouTube's got a million videos on it.
Got it.
Uh, but do that. No, you don't. You will if you start chest breathing. You've got to learn to engage your diaphragm, by pushing it out when you breathe in and pulling it back in when you breathe out.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but at first, it will feel weird because you haven't done it since you were a baby. Babies do it naturally, and then we unlearn it.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So I have a 6-month-old grandson, and I watch him do it. And it's amazing. So,
Uh,
um, so that's one thing. Second
okay.
thing is you need to have a routine at night before you go to bed. Most people don't. Um, you've got to get off your devices in the last hour. If you can't find a way to do that, then you need to buy on $20 on Amazon. You can get blue blocker glasses. Wear them at night while you're watching TV or looking at your devices.
Okay.
Okay. Um, the other reason you don't want to look at your devices is I wrote a book, and if I'm just going to be crazy and give my cell phone out, if people want a free copy of this, text me and I will mail them one free, including I'll pay the shipping and everything. Okay.
Yeah.
It's called Unleash the Peak Performer Within You, and it goes through all of everything I'm saying now. Tips how to sleep better. It's beyond tips. It's like extensive. Okay. Uh, but you've got to breathe to set your calm set point so that you can get your body to calm down and go to sleep. You
Mm-hmm.
can't stimulate it at night. So you need to have these blue blocker glasses. The problem with looking at your device is invariably there's going to be a stressful text or email in there, and then it's going to activate your mind and you're not going to be able to shut it off.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's why ignore the phone if you can after 6. I have research that shows people are less productive when they look at their phones after 5:30 p.m.
No way. Okay.
Yep. Okay. Because you need to like break off that time and recover. And then the third thing with sleep is you need to have good hygiene, meaning no TVs in the bedroom. If you're one of those people that goes to bed watching the news at night, guess what? You're gonna have to give that up. Um, you need to have a cool, dark room. Spend a little more money on air conditioning and bring it down so you're cool. And then the other big thing is to have 3 hours between last calories and when you go to bed.
Okay.
Those would be my top three areas to look at and sleep.
Well, good news is I feel like I'm doing actually reasonable on it. No TV in the bedroom. That was just something we decided.
Yep.
I like the no phone after 6. I mean, that does feel a little extra,
Yep.
but I can
It'd
see
be
the
hard.
benefit of it. I
Yeah,
see the
it's hard.
benefit. And I started doing, because I used to be really stressed and I'm like, I can't handle this. So I have my phone where it will go to sleep at 7:40, but I can just like notch that up to 6 o'clock and easy
Yeah.
because it actually is shocking to like go put it on the charger, be with family, go hang out outside. Like for the first couple of days, I felt weird. Like, what am I
Yep.
supposed to do with myself? But, and I like the no stimulant and then the breathing before bed. I think the breathing before bed, because I like to almost like ramp myself up and start thinking like, okay, what's everything coming? Like, it's like a racehorse getting ready to run before I fall asleep. Like, okay, don't forget that. Don't forget this. Don't
Yeah,
forget
that's
that.
the opposite of what you need to do. That's called you're creating cognitive load. And what you need to do is before you breathe is I'd go dump all that out in a journal or something
Mm-hmm.
that you can open in the morning because you're not sleeping well, so there's a reason. Okay,
Right.
so even though you're doing some of this stuff, there's something not right.
Mm-hmm.
And I can when we're done with the podcast, we can do a little mini coaching session. Let me try
Oh,
to help you.
cool.
Yeah,
Thanks. Okay.
yeah,
So then I'm going to ask the next question of burnout. Like,
yeah,
okay, we've got some sleep, we've got some stress, like the
yeah.
breathe to reduce the stress. What about burnout? Because I feel like, I don't know, Steve, you work with a lot of people, and I hear this from coaching hundreds of clients. They almost feel like they're on the rat race. Like it just
Yep.
feels like it's this churn, and
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how hard I work. I just have like, there's always more to work. And I feel in today's society, you've got TikTok, you've got social media, you've got comparisonitis across the world.
Right. Yep.
We're constantly comparing, we're constantly feeling like we're not doing enough. And then we just shut down, and then it's this burnout, and then it's exhausted. And I just feel like it's like it constantly feeds. And then you're not sleeping well, and then you're more
Right.
stressed. And like, how do you prevent burnout? How do you stop the burnout if you're in the
Yep.
burnout? What are some things around
Well,
that?
there. I wish I could draw on her name right now. There's two core causes of burnout. One is that um, you're not managing stress, you're not sleeping well, and it's a physiological solution.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the other side of it though is um, if you are in a toxic environment and it's creating a lot of stress. You can address all the physiological side and that will help. But if you're in a highly toxic, you absolutely hate it environment, you're going to have to exit that environment somehow.
What happens if
Now,
that's your business?
well, yeah. So for a dentist or a lawyer or an entrepreneur like me, what we have to do is we have to re-engineer it in a way that it works for us. And that can be done. Okay. That's a simplistic answer to a very complex problem, but we don't have the time to really go deep into that. But I want to make sure people understand that there are two drivers of burnout. One is you've got a set of circumstances that if it's disempowering and tearing you down moment by moment, you've got to address it. And I will tell you that in my past, I've had that in my own business, and what I had to do was re-engineer the model and how we delivered the service, or I had to move people out and put new people in to address that. Uh, I was good at that part. I wasn't good at taking care of my health. Now, as an overarching statement, I want to say something, and this again is in my book. And I'm not trying to sell books; I'm trying to give them away, honestly. But
Yeah,
the big idea here is we are living in a period of change. Stephen Kotler wrote about this with Peter Diamandis. Um, we're experiencing 100 years of change in the 2020s alone
totally.
because there's multiple technologies and medical advances and all these things that are exponentially accelerating all at the same time. And it's changing how we literally function in society. We're seeing AI just literally explode onto the scene.
Mm-hmm.
and it's gonna eliminate a lot of people's jobs. And we're all in this period of time where we're trying to sort this out. And I'm 59 years old. I will liken it to Y2K coming out of the 90s. It was pretty analog, and all of a sudden, boom, everything was becoming digital, and it was a very stressful time for anybody who was in business.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got that overlay happening. And what in my book, what I talk about is, we're facing an exponential problem. You can't attack it with a linear solution. A linear solution is go a little bit harder, be a little more efficient, and kind of squeeze. And that's not the answer. The answer is you've got to learn how to engineer your lifestyle to be like in a high, like peak performer. And that involves optimizing your physiology, your psychology, and how to optimize your day. And
I
I
love
talk
that.
about all of that in the book. The book literally teaches you step by step how to do that.
Which is fun. And I do think like absolutely send it my way. I'm ready to read it.
Yeah.
I love learning these things. You guys know I'm a huge fan of Tony Robbins. I'm a huge fan of these things,
Yep.
but I also feel like I want to, there's so many options out there for health, for sleep.
I
Like
know.
I feel like we're inundated
We
like with
are.
knowledge. Like there's
Yep.
so much out there, but I'm like, I'm searching for wisdom. I'm searching for like what really is going to optimize my life.
Yep.
So I am curious, like from your perspective, working with high CEOs, working
Hmm.
with people who are prone to long hours, you've got type A
Yep.
personalities that just
Yes.
drive and grind constantly. And it's like gladiators all day long slaying. What is an optimal day? Like in a quick nutshell. And I know it's going to say it's for every person, but like, is there founded studies? I'm super curious on this. I've been curious on
Yeah.
it to like start your day later or to meditate or to work out or to consolidate. Like, I
Yep.
feel we're in this shift of how we work. I mean, the 8 to 5 that was built back with like Henry Ford when they needed people to
Right.
work more. It had like no foundings behind it. And that's just what we've adopted into today's society. So, have you found anything with how to structure your day or how to structure your life? The balance of how
Yep.
much work time, how much because that's what people get to. They're like, I can't, Steve. I've got to hit the business. I've got numbers.
Right.
I'm going to crank my time here and I'll pay for my health later. But I think people are getting smarter and not wanting to live that way. So, what's your optimal
Hmm.
day in a quick nutshell, or any tips around building that to optimize and be a peak performer?
That's a good question, Kiera. What I will tell you is there are principles, because a dentist going in every day with a schedule is different than a writer, who is different than a podcaster or somebody like me. So, what I'll tell you, what are the building blocks are: number one, you've got to have a morning routine. Whether, that includes some kind of physical, some kind of higher power, spiritual, feed your soul, and some learning. And there's all kinds of research. If you'll commit an hour in the morning before your day, will feel so much more in control. The other thing I would encourage people to do is you've got to have extreme clarity about what you want, and then create a goal stack. A goal stack is 5 years to 1 year to quarterly to monthly to weekly to daily priorities. Okay. And again, I sound like a broken record, but in this book, it has all of the how to do that.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
So morning routine, and then a goal stack. So, because if you wake up in the morning every day at the same time and you have this routine and it centers you, and you've done the work, and you have your goal stack, and you know that today I'm going to do these specific things in blocks of time, it settles you, because you're like, okay, I know I'm marching toward my intended future. The third thing is people need to learn how to be corporate athletes. And let me unpack that. Athletes, play at a high level and then they recover. That's not what we do in business. We just go, 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 and we never commit to recovery. And so, think like a corporate athlete means having cycles of productivity followed by cycles of recovery. And what I do every day, I'm not perfect at it, is about every hour to 90 minutes, I'll stop for 5 minutes and I'll breathe, or I'll go out and take a walk, or for me, I'll pray, whatever, or meditate for 5 minutes. And if you'll do this, what it does is it'll actually um, strengthen your energy as your day goes on through the day. Because when you just go nonstop, because type A's hate timeouts.
Right.
But what it does is there's that law of diminishing return. By the late afternoon, you're cooked. And
Mm-hmm.
if you'll cycle, you'll find yourself never having the afternoon lulls anymore. So those would be my three things: learning how to cycle your effort as a corporate athlete, building a goal stack, having a morning routine. So you notice I didn't tell people how to schedule their day because no, you
Right.
can't do it. I can't tell anybody to
No.
do that.
I agree with you. But I am always curious because so many people talk about morning routines, they talk about evening routines, they talk about building
Yeah,
your goal. And I think it's just interesting. What I think I've found is it takes discipline to just build it. Like and to
it
commit
does.
that because Steve, do you notice how many people and clients because I feel like there's two types of people. There's your proactive people that want to be proactive and preventative. And
Right.
then there's your people who do nothing until they're in pain and they have to and they're forced to be there. So,
Correct.
how do people become more proactive? Because honestly, Steve, I'm this person where I'm like, forget that. I'm young. I've got so much going on. And now I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, my arms tingling, my legs tingling. Like I'm not sleeping at night. And I'm like, Kiera, you're like in your 30s, honey. Like clearly you've been burning it for so long.
Yep.
So how can we like help change society and
Yep.
all the listeners today to become more proactive, to commit to, I'm not going to like have to go and fix my health because I've been
Right.
proactively doing this. What are any of the things you have that could help out in that regard? Because to
Hmm.
me, I think that that's truthfully society's greatest lie is teaching us that like take care of yourself later. Like you wrote this and you said like help yourself become the number one patient, which
Patient
I thought
number
was
one. Yep.
like I thought it was kind of a funny phrase until we started talking, honestly. And now I'm like, oh, I get it. Like if I take care of me first, it's like the oxygen mask in the plane. I
Yep.
can go for a lot longer. So how do we change people's mindset to realize like this is important instead of forcing them
Hmm.
when it could be too late?
Well, willpower is unreliable,
Agreed.
and discipline flows out of clarity. And so, what I tell, like, because I still do some health coaching myself with our clients because I want to stay close to it. And what I find is if someone has extreme clarity, then they have no trouble with discipline and willpower. The people that have trouble with discipline and willpower have not found their why. They don't have a reason to do it. And so they falter because our natural inclination is to be lazy, to do nothing, because we want to be in that comfort zone. And what you and I are talking about is teaching people how to become comfortable being uncomfortable.
Right.
And the other thing I would say is, and I've got to find a better way to say it, but I challenge people all the time. Why are you letting what an insurance company says they'll reimburse your doctor for dictate your investment in $1 billion asset, which is your body? You only get one of them. And I realize if you have no means, then you have to do that. And I understand, and that's no judgment. But if you've arrived at a place in life where you do have discretionary income, why wouldn't you defer buying the next Beamer or going to Starbucks 300 days a year and invest some money in your health proactively? Become a health investor instead of a healthcare consumer. Because I love this quote: "He who has his health has 1,000 dreams. He who doesn't has only one."
Totally.
And when you get to that point, you have no options, and it's going to cost you a ton of money to get better.
Mhm.
If you'll do it proactively, you'll have the choice, and it'll be cheaper.
I love it.
Yeah.
This year I committed, Steve. It's funny that we're having this conversation this year because I don't I love cars. People who listen to the podcast, they see me
Me
as this like
too.
tiny little girl, and then they find out like I'm a straight up drag racer and love fast cars and
Funny.
definitely enjoy like Lambos, Ferraris, like Teslas. Like I just think it's so fun. I love a good fast car. I enjoy them. I love
Yep.
classic cars. And so my analogy this year, I actually bought a sign on Amazon that said I identify as a Ferrari, and I put that up. I mean, there are some like whatever nuances to it, but I did it intentionally to remind myself because I thought if I had a Ferrari in the garage, how would I treat this? Like, Steve, car people, we would
Right.
be like shining this thing, like we would be pampering it, like only premium gas, only going to the best mechanics. Like you are not going to do anything, this thing's going to sit covered, parked, babied, taken care of.
Yep.
Like you better believe I'm going to drive it, and we're going to drive it hard for a little while, and it's going to be real fun. and then it's going into the garage and we're going to take care of it and we're going to just really love this. And I
Right.
thought, we do that for body, or we do that for cars, we do that for kids, we do that for patients. How can we help ourselves see it? So this year I was like, all right, my body's a Ferrari. Like, I eat
Yeah,
optimal
that's a
food and we
great.
eat optimal sleep, and I don't work all the hours because guess what? This body needs to rest. And so, like, whatever I feel like people love, like whatever it is for you that can be that image, because
Mhm.
honestly, like, I don't have kids, Steve. I don't have another thing. Like, it's me and my husband and it's fun, but like,
Yeah.
if something happened to me, he'd be fine. My family, they're fine. So when people are like, find your why, I'm like, I don't know what my why is. My why is like, I just enjoy having fun. But for me, it was like figuring out something of, I also want to live until I'm in my hundreds. And if I'm not taking care of my body today, how many more opportunities am I going to miss out on? How many patients am I not going to be
Right.
able to serve? And so sometimes it can be like, what's your why that way? But also like, what's it going to cost not to take care of your body? I wrote it down
Right.
on my computer. I have one. I'm a Foxy Fit billionaire babe. I said, fall in love with what is. And next door to it, I just wrote, my body is $1 billion asset, because I don't think people view their bodies that way. I think it's a
Right.
taken for granted machine. Um,
Until it's broken.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
then you regret.
I mean, that's really good on the why, what you're talking about. For you, like if you someday have children, this is the someday thing. I always talk about, I had a guy that owns a law firm in the west on the West Coast, big one, and he was like 50 years old. He had a 4-year-old daughter, and I said to him like, okay, when is she going to graduate from college? And he did the math, and he said, oh my gosh, I'm going to be like 69 years old or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, yeah, and you'll probably be 75 potentially before she's married, and you might be 80 before she has a kid. And I'm like, we just had our first grandson. And 5 years ago, I was so unhealthy. I don't know if I'd even be alive today.
Wow.
And I showed up big time at lunch today. I went and visited my daughter and my grandson. And I'm this fit guy who can get on the ground and play with them and do all this stuff. And I said, who are you going to show up as when you go to her graduation? And he's like,
Yeah.
that's what it is. But also today, Kiera, you've got this communication platform. You're coaching dental practices. Who are you showing up today as? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's what we tell all of our professionals. But like dentists, it's easy. It's like, what do you do with your own patients? You tell them invest in prevention, and then when you're 60, your teeth won't be falling out of your head. Uh, but the dentists have to apply what they do with their own patients to themselves, because when you do, everybody and everyone and everything around you gets better.
Totally. Isn't that funny though, Steve? Like, this is my wrap up question to you on it. I've loved today. I feel
Uh-huh.
like I've got I mean, I've taken more notes on your podcast than anyone else, and I'm like, awesome. I need to recharge in the middle of the day. Like, I loved the corporate athlete. That was brilliant. Um, how do you get people to change their mindsets around that? How do you get people to, like you said, invest? Like, we tell all the other
Yeah.
people, but I feel like we think we're Superman or Superwoman and we can beat
Right.
the odds. And I don't need that, Steve. I don't need a 5 minute break. Like, Steve, I've been sitting here all morning since 3 a.m. this morning. I think I've gotten up one time because I'm like, I got this. Like, just power through the podcast. Like, how is it just committing that you're $1 billion asset and like you deserve it, and you're going to just set an alarm on your phone every hour and get up? Like, is it just those small little things that make the
It is.
changes?
It is because look, you can get away with it for a long time. I did. I hit a wall about 47 years old,
Yeah,
and but I also, you described what you're experiencing. I had that same thing happen to me in my late 20s. So offline, we can talk about
we
that. But
will. Thank you.
but so I guess what I would wrap up with is, what we're doing at Tiger Medical is we're educating people. That's why I write the books. I got another one I hope coming out early next year. Um, we use data to confront them with the truth, and I'm gonna share an opportunity at the end here that will give people the opportunity to do that. By the way, I should give you my cell phone number. I've never done this publicly like this, but it's 616 403 1985. 616 403 1985. If anybody listening wants my book, you just text me and I will get a book to you. And I won't. I'm not sucking you into a sales funnel. I'll just send you the book. And then if you want to talk more, you can.
Cool.
So that's one piece. But we've got like 3 levels of programming at Tiger Medical, and those 3 levels are accessible for a lot of people. But I'm really excited. I can't say yet, but we're about to launch a partnership throughout the U.S. nationally with a name brand longevity research organization. And we're going to bring to the world $149 a month membership program,
Very
wellness
cool.
program. Yeah. And it's going to be pretty exciting to do that. So that's how we're doing it, Kiera. It's a challenge because dentistry took 100 years to train people. They need to come in twice a year. And we're
Mhm.
on the early end of this. The traditional medicine world still scoffs at everything that is not what they do.
Right.
And right. And to me,
Mhm.
though, it's the gift that keeps giving because we keep getting people that failed with that side, and they come to our side, and we get them better.
Totally. And I think it's just a matter of like definitely figuring it out. And I am a huge fan. I believe, I remember I went to Tony Robbins and I was sitting in there and I remember something like I was in this big wealth conference and like
Uh-huh.
Ray Dalio was there and Paul Tudor Jones. And like it was just nuts of who these people were that we were getting exposure to. And he said, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to have different opinions. And you have to figure out the opinions that are right for you and use your intuition. And that was for financial, but I also
Yep,
think it goes for your body. And I feel like
it does.
being educated, I'm always pro science. I like science. I don't like as much willy nilly. I like to give offices proven systems that I know are going to help you and make you successful. Just like I know you guys are very big on, like, let's definitely deal with having our health be our optimal thing. So I hope everybody like reach out. Steve, I appreciate that. Definitely get the book. I'm excited. I know you're shipping it to me. So thank you for that. I'm excited to read with it.
Yeah,
But I really feel like it's something of I hope everyone today, Steve, what you gave me and gifted me was I love the my body is $1 billion asset and
yep,
to really prioritize our health, to prioritize who we are so we can show up for our patients, our teams, our communities, our
yeah,
families.
absolutely.
But more than that, like for us, I think we each deserve an incredible life to be able to say yes to things. Like I thought about my trajectory of life and I mean, I don't want to live to be 100 plus if I'm in pain and miserable and can't be with the
Right.
people I love. I want to live until I'm like 99, 100, 101. And my last
Yep,
maybe 1 year is hard, but the
yep,
rest of my time was incredible as my body decides to phase out. But to truly give myself that gift, I think is one of the best things. And I think about it when I'm 100, 101, 102. Will I regret standing up every hour for 5 minutes or breathing before night to sleep better to give myself more years and more opportunities and more life?
sure.
It's a
Yep,
small price right now that will pay
small.
undue dividends. So thank you
That,
for
that
that, Steve.
Oh, you're welcome. And this is a calling for me. I mean, I'm so excited about it. And let me share this with you, Akira. So we have a way for people, low impact, zero risk way for them to start this journey. And
Awesome.
and no, and there's no obligation to work with us. What we have, I just started it 2 weeks ago, and what it is it's a data health assessment. So you know how people always say, "Hey, get on an assessment with you," and it's really disguised as a
Yep.
sales call.
Hmm.
That's not what this is. We're going to have you do an online survey, a health survey, all your history, and then we're going to order a blood panel for you, a comprehensive one, not the kind you get at the doctor's office once a year where you get slapped on the back to see if you cough. This one's actually a functional medicine panel. It's $497. And if you get the results and you feel like, and then you meet with me and I go through it with you, if you feel like it's
Cool.
really didn't help you, there was no value, I will give your money back.
Cool.
I'll eat the cost of the lab. If you love it, but you want to work with another practitioner, fine, go for it. And then the third option is if you work with us, I credit 100% of that investment toward the next thing you do with us. And so that's real easy to find. It's just Tiger PI. That's our old website, but I tied it to this Tiger PI, like Paul International, tigerpi.com/health. So tigerpi.com/health. and it has stuff there explains how it all works. There should be a video in there of me too talking about it, and then go from there.
Cool. No, I love it. I just went to that as well. I think it'd be awesome. I just remember I went to an event once and they said like what's the greatest risk is not finding out. I'd rather know
Right.
now, being proactive. Just like your patients, like, those patients who don't want to take x-rays and you're like, listen, if you just took this x-ray and found out,
Right.
like,
Right.
we could solve this when it's a quick little
Well,
like MO versus it being an extraction, an implant, bone grafting. Like, it's just simple. Why not?
I
find
agree,
out now?
Kiera. And what I found when I work with people is, and the reason I do this now is because they didn't really know if what we're going to do is going to be helpful or not. So I'm like, let's just get the truth now.
Yeah.
Now, it's not all the truth. We do a lot more testing, but this would give somebody a real clear indication of, yeah, I probably need to get to work. So that's why we do it. Yeah.
I love it. Okay. So tigerpi.com/health. They also can text you. I wrote down 616-483-1985 to get your book as well.
Nope. It's let me fix it. 616-403-1985.
Well, good thing, because I wouldn't have been able to text you. So 616-403-1985. I mean, that's a pretty great date. It's not my birth year, but but close. So anyway, Steve, I appreciate you. It was so fun to have you today.
Thank
For
you.
all of you listening, truly, your body is $1 billion asset. Take care of it. Make sure that you're taking care of it. And I think these are two great ways, the book and the free health assessment, where it costs you literally nothing to find out. I think are two awesome ways that you guys could get started on the health journey. So Steve, thank you so much. I appreciate you today.
Thank you, Kiera. I'm grateful to be on.
Awesome. All right, guys, for all of you listening, thank you. And I'll catch you next time on the Dental 18 podcast. And that wraps it up for another episode of the Dental 18 podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.